Today, we're here to talk about safety and fear on the playground and in the boardroom. So, for all of you coaches out there, my guest today is going to talk about how coaching has made her a better parent and how being a parent has made her a better coach. Welcome to Market Like a Parent and Parent Like a Marketer, where we explore the connections between parenting and marketing and what one can teach us about the other. I'm Danielle Weil, founder of GW Copy and creator of Launchflow. I'm a mom of 4 living on a kibbutz in Israel, copywriter to the stars, marketing strategist, and I've been helping business owners for over 20 years. And I've made over $100 million for clients over the course of my career. My guest today is Celi Arias, founder of Scale Pilot and creator of the 6 Growth Engines framework. After 22 years building businesses, including founding and selling a global fashion company, Celi has advised over 400 entrepreneurs and can diagnose what's blocking your growth in about 10 minutes. She's built a strategic operating system, which, by the way, is so cool, that gives entrepreneurs the clarity typically reserved for expensive advisors. And she's on a mission to democratize business intelligence for founders everywhere. And she's here today to talk about parenting because she is also a mom. Welcome, Celi. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
So, first of all, the title of the podcast is Market Like a Parent. What does market like a parent and parent like a marketer mean to you?
Well, when you were telling me the title of your show, I was like, that makes perfect sense to me, because when I knew I was having a child, you get that panic of like, I don't know what I'm doing. Do I need to read parenting books at night and prepare? And then as I became a mom, I realized, I actually do know what I'm doing. I coach people all the time. And it's been surprising to me how easy it's been for me to apply what I've learned in coaching people for so many years. And that awareness of those things that hold people back is applying that to a new life from the earliest stages. So the premise of your show makes so much sense to me, because I'm like, of course. Yeah, all this stuff that I've developed in my professional career, instead of treating it as separate, I can use that intuition and those lessons to be a better parent. And so far, I think it served me well. Yeah.
So when you talk about, I actually was able to take, what I do in coaching and apply it to parenting. Can you give us some examples of that?
Yeah. In business, we're driven a lot by fear, safety, what makes us feel safe. And a lot of times, fear doesn't care about your dreams. So what I notice in my clients is that the driver for safety is bigger than the driver for realizing their dreams. Mm-hmm. And if they're in direct competition with each other, if you're not willing to kind of really look at that and heal your fear and heal where the fear is coming from, the driver for safety will always win the battle of dreams versus safety. So I see that in my child, for example, and I'm like, that's really interesting. How do I create safety for him at an early age? And so what I naturally was doing instinctively is trying to teach him that it's safe to be himself. It's safe to explore. It's safe to question. It's safe to be out of the box. And then, of course, then you pick up a parenting book and you're like, all this stuff that's in these parenting books about this thing, I'm doing not because I'm like such a genius or such a great parent, it's just because I'm a coach and I literally coach people through this stuff. I'm a scale coach, right? So I coach people on the hard tactics and strategic moves that are going to grow their revenue and ultimately scale their business if they want to scale. Once we figure out the mechanics that need to happen, then the challenge is getting those things to happen. And that has more to do with the person and their wiring and their beliefs and their fears and safety. That has more to do with those things than do they agree with the strategy that I've put in place for them? Right?
Right.
So understanding that is gosh, fear and safety is such a huge, what can I do to not create that in my son from an early age? And so it's just been this fascinating journey for me, because where I notice it the most is I give my child a lot of freedom to be himself, to explore, to play, to kind of push boundaries a little bit in terms of what's systematically or publicly acceptable. And I notice the evil glares I get from other parents. For example, in a music class, I don't force my child to sit in my lap the whole time. From a very early age, there's this expectation put on them of no, we're in class, you sit and behave. It's well, he's going to have to do that in school. He's not even of school age yet. So why would I be like tugging on my child and pulling him back and forcing him to stay right by me at all times? Like, if he's not hurting himself or hurting anyone else, why can't he walk around and explore? So these are the things that I'm noticing. And it's not even a judgment of other parents. It's more like, wow, this stuff starts really early.
It starts really early, and so much of it we take with us.
Yeah.
Without even realizing that we've taken it with us.
And it's very funny how other kids are like, oh, you don't do that here, or we don't do that, or how people react to that. And I'm like, yeah, for him, music is music. Music means dance and play. So we dance and play. But how at an early age, kids are taught when things are appropriate and when you're supposed to do things and when it's acceptable to do things and when it's not. Those are the things that I'm observing at this very early age. And I'm like, whoa, this is intense.
Because you can see where it started. And I think what's interesting is you're doing your best to try to insulate him from a lot of this, but eventually you know they're going to meet it in school and in other settings and from other authority figures and from, you know, the system. What's cool about where I live is that the preschool years, there's really not a lot of academic learning going on at all. And it was surprising to me because going to a private school in the US, you know, we're 3 years old, reading, writing letters. It's very academic right away. And the attitude in the kibbutz is like, let them be kids as long as they can. They learn to read starting in first grade. And before then, yes, there's some letter exposures. Yes, you know, there's some educational content, but mostly they are playing. They're playing in the room. They're playing outside. They spend a lot of time outside. And I'm not saying it's perfect, but they do get a lot more of that freedom to be. And a lot of it comes from society's expectations of what should happen at each age. And there really is a cultural difference depending on where you're raising your kids.
Totally. I actually love that. I love that. Like I'm not worried about my child being smart. And I do find it interesting that there's such an emphasis at a very early age of like, oh, he's already picking up these letters and these colors and calling it like, I'm actually not worried about it. He's going to be fine. Right? Like you can speak to him in Greek, Spanish, or English, and he like will look at you and know exactly what you're saying. And my in-laws recently came over and asked him something in Greek. My mother-in-law came up to him and was like, "How's your cough doing?" And he went, and she was like, he understood because Greek is probably the language that he hears the least amount of. And I was like, yeah, he's really attentive. He really listens and pays attention. So I'm not worried about that, but I love that. I'm like all for how do we play and dance and sing and learn from experience? And I think that also is probably tied to my coaching because I know, for example, I can't tell my clients to do something. Do you have that experience with your kids?
Certainly, there are situations where we are trying to give one of our kids our best advice and they just don't want to hear it. Teenagers just think they know better than you and they know everything. And parents cannot possibly understand or have any sort of comprehension of what they are going through because no one has ever been a teenager before until they have.
Well, yeah, I think about that in my clients. A lot of times when it comes to seeing something they haven't seen before or that they're not seeing, or it comes to making some shift that's quite a shift, I can't just tell them. I have to show proof of it or they have to go and experience it. Mm-hmm. And when they experience it for themselves, even if I'm like, try this and go see what happens, and they have an experience and they go, you were right. And so I also think about that in how I raise my child. It's like, I can tell him, don't stand up on that chair. Don't stand up on the chair. Don't stand up on that chair. You will fall. You will fall. I can tell him, but he's going to keep standing up on that chair and he's going to fall. And when he falls, I'm like, okay, now you understand why I said you will fall and you will get hurt. There's so many like parallels that I'm finding all the time about how we learn also. Sometimes you need to experience something. And it's also that balance for me of, when I know that you need to experience something rather than hear it from me as a client and also in my child.
But that also goes back to the fear and safety piece.
Yeah.
In other words, I think we need to feel safe enough to try something, to
Right.
experience it for ourselves.
Yes.
And then the fear of doing it, like, oh, we did that already. It's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. In parenting, my goal is to teach my child what it feels like to feel safe in his body. Because I feel like that gets kind of beat out of us through schooling and parenting and systemic and culture, right? And so you start to not believe yourself or trust yourself in certain situations as an adult. You know that thing of like, oh, dang, I knew that one. Or like I had this like gut instinct that I should have done this, or I should have gone left, or I should have not hired that 50K coach. I had a feeling and I didn't listen to it. I get that. I hear that a lot, like from people who are like, oh, I knew I should have just done XYZ. And that's definitely been true for me in my own business. There were times where I listened to advice from people who were supposedly wiser and or more successful or more famous and knew more. And it was against everything that I felt in my body to be true. And I ignored it. And then it turned out that I was right. As a
Right.
coach, I have had to really work on leaning into what I know to be true after like 25 years in business and building and working in very different businesses. But I realized like, oh, if I can get my child to learn how to trust his body and his instinct early on and not doubt it, I'm going to create a person who's just empowered in the world and feels safe in his body. So for example, you go to a cookout, you arrive, everybody wants to say hi to your adorable 2-year-old, and he doesn't want to go play with the other kids, and he's hiding behind your legs. And what do? For a lot of people, the temptation is to pull the kid from out behind your legs, push him forward, force him to go play, force him to be social with people because you're worried about, oh, my child is being awkward or my child is shy. How does that make me look that my child is uncomfortable in the situation, or my child doesn't like my friends very much for whatever reason? I would let my child hide behind my legs as long as he needs.
Right.
And I would actually make it totally okay. And I would actually tell people to back off. I actually do this for my child. My child is how I was as a child. He doesn't like being kissed.
Yeah.
You know, he's really adorable and everybody wants to kiss his cheeks, but he doesn't like it. But he doesn't like being touched. He doesn't even like being
Right.
touched by other kids, which is really quite cute, but he doesn't like it. He has a personal space thing. And I'm Latina. I grew up in South America. And
Right.
we are a very touchy-feely, warm culture. And I remember getting so much crap all the time from people that I didn't want to be kissed and that I didn't want to be touched. And I remember getting so much crap from my parents. What it teaches you is to override the feeling that you're feeling in your body of like, oh, I don't really like that person. They smell. Or I like my personal space. Still to this day, I am this way, right? I'm a very warm, loving person, but I'm not super touchy. Like, I'll give you a really good hug, and that's it, right? And I just remember what it felt like to be told that that was rude or bad or wrong. And so even with my child today, I'm like, no, 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 back up. No, don't get in his face. If you want him to like you, do not hover over him, do not kiss him, do not touch him. If you want him to like you. And if he doesn't like you, there's nothing I can do for you. And I will not force him to be nice to you, and I will not force him to like you.
I think so much of it comes from, like you said, it's what we want other people to perceive, because our kids, if we see them as a reflection of us, our parenting, our abilities, our whatever, and we put that on them, then their behavior reflects back on us. And to take it back to business for a second, I think a lot of people look at their business as an extension of them.
Oh, yeah.
My business is a reflection of all of the hard work that I've put in and the effort that I've put in. And you can understand why we have these feelings, because both parenting and building a business are a lot of work. Work, pain, struggle, ups and downs. So how do you, as a coach, help people do that for their business as well?
Yeah, well, that's interesting. I feel like one of the things I've always done as a coach is try to create that separation between you and your business, because it just ultimately makes you a better business owner. But now that cuts a little deeper, because the truth is I also understand if he's feeling shy or he doesn't like you, most likely it's a phase. And your business is most likely going through a phase. Nothing is permanent, right? And so when we stress out in that moment of like our child is not performing and behaving how he should in this moment, we create this like distortion field of who he's supposed to be and how he's supposed to be and how he's supposed to be performing, rather than allowing him to be in the phase he's in and have the feelings he's having and make it okay and make it safe to have those things. Well, the truth is we put a lot of sometimes insane expectations on our business to do things and perform a certain way when they're just not in that phase, right? And I see that too all the time, like people in year 2 who want to be at 7 figures. I'm like, you're just not there yet. And that's okay. You don't have the right pieces in place to get there. You will if you stick it out, but you're in year 2, 3. Like those are the years where it really sucks. So
The tantrum years.
I think that happens in business too, is rather than going, I'm in a building phase, I'm in a product market fit phase, I'm in a proof of concept phase, I'm in a community building phase, I'm in a pricing and profitability phase, I'm in a back-end systems, team building, strengthening our ability to deliver phase. Not every phase in business is a growth phase. And if you're marking your success by that external metric, I see a lot of people get frustrated early or quit before they're ahead because they're only measuring their success by that metric. I made some content not too long ago about last year and like the incredible year that I had last year, and it wasn't a revenue growth year for me. But if I were to look on paper at my year through revenue and judge myself by that, it would have been a failure, or it would have been a stagnant year. So I could look at that as a failure.
It depends what we measure.
Yeah. Are you aware of what phase your business is in? Are you honest with yourself? Do you know what phase you're in? And can you be honest with yourself about what phase you're in? What are the external variables in the world and how they're going to affect your business? If you expect to keep the same programs and offers and products alive forever, and you expect things to not change, you're not going to have a lot of fun running a business.
I think there's so much truth to that. And there's also maybe unrealistic expectations, both that we put on our businesses because of what we're told it should be, and on our kids because of what we're told they should be. You know, you go to the well baby visits and, oh, she should be, walking by now, or she should be doing this. I once went to one of these well baby visits with my son, and he just was not into any of it. He was like 3. And he didn't like the nurse at all. The nurse was like, and he's like, and she asked him to, I don't know what it was, build a tower with blocks. And kid knows how to build a tower with blocks. Like, it was not a challenge, but he wouldn't do it for her and perform on cue. And she's like, well, I think we need to refer him to, and I'm like, no, we don't. Okay. You can say whatever you want, but he's fine, right? And then there are cases, in parenting and in business where there is a delay, where, there's something that should be happening and you do need some external support. I think one of the most important things you said is that your business has phases of growth. Can you talk a little bit more about those phases and sort of how to know where you are?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because I actually haven't really thought about it this way. Ironically, even though I'm literally writing a book about this and I talk about this all the time. So thank you, Danielle. I wasn't thinking about it in terms of parenting, but like I literally have a teaching which is called the stages of growth, and understanding when you are in this revenue range, you are typically working on these things. And when you're in the next revenue bucket, you're typically working on these things, and et cetera, and et cetera. And what happens is if you haven't done the things in each bucket, you might grow in revenue, but if you haven't grown the internal backbone and procedures and foundations of your business, it ultimately cannot sustain that revenue growth that you might have had. So I literally have a teaching called the stages of growth, but it's the same thing. I always say to people, if you want to get to the next phase of revenue, let's first make sure you did all 5 of these things in phase 1. If you do all 5 of those things and your business is actually set up to like jump to that next phase easily, if you don't do those things and you keep avoiding those things, it's just going to get harder and harder. And I guess it's the same as we see developmentally with children, right? But I just think like if you don't establish proof of concept with your audience early on, when you're in the early 5-figure to 6-figure stage, if you haven't really established proof of concept and product market fit, which if you didn't take the time to really talk to your audience, I mean, talk to them as people, get to know them, understand their pain points, understand what they really are frustrated by, understand what they really want, understand if your product really delivers a result for them. If you don't know that, if you can't spit out to me what their pain point is, what they really desire, and how you get them there, it's very hard to jump from 100 to 250K. Right? And then in phase 2, if you don't actually get some support so that you can delegate and the work isn't all on you, and if you don't actually start to create a system and a processes at 250K to deliver your services or your goods or your product with more efficiency and with more satisfaction, it's really hard to jump to 500K. So it's something different at every phase. You can't like move forward or become an amazing artist if you didn't learn how painting works. You can't become an amazing musician if you don't understand how scales work, right? And it's the same in business. We want to skip the things that are not fun, but eventually those things catch up to you. And that's literally what we do in business. And what I did in business too, right? Like there were things I'm like, I'm a superstar, sparkly snowflake. That is irrelevant to me. I was a fashion designer in my 20s, right? And so it's like, I don't need to know my numbers. I just need to make the sexiest dress. Like if my dress is the best, that's all that matters. It will sell. And it did sell, but did it sell profitably? And did I know how many I needed to sell in order to cover my costs and cover my rent and cover my expenses and be able to take weekends off? No, I didn't. So therefore I worked 10 times harder.
Right.
You skip some basics in business that you think you're too good for or you don't really need to do or everybody's going to want my product. It's going to get really hard to sell that product that you haven't done the research for.
Yeah. So tell us about what you have built to help people get this right.
Well, I have built a software that basically is the 6 growth engines. It's called Scale Pilot. You can check it out at getscalepilot.com. You can join a demo walkthrough because it's only available right now to past clients and it will be publicly available in March. But the whole premise is, do you know the health of your key 6 growth engines in business? Do you know how you're actually doing? Do you have all those pieces in place? And if you don't, let's fill them in. Let's fill in those gaps. Right? So do you know your cash flow? Do you know your conversion rates? Do you know your messaging and positioning and clear marketing messaging? Do you have a one-page marketing plan? Do you have a sales pipeline? Do you know how to work a sales pipeline? All that stuff that we don't really enjoy looking at in business. What if it all lived in one mega dashboard that kind of forces you to input the data so that you can actually see the health of your business? And that is what I have been spending the past year of my life building.
Amazing. It's like a growth development chart for your business that lets you track it in real time.
The 6 growth engines basically mimic the key departments of business, right? If you had the budget to hire a CEO, a CFO, a CRO, a COO, a CMO, what would they do? And what are the bare minimum things they would own? So what we measure is, are you operating a business like a business? And do you have the different departments built out? And do you understand the basic metrics that you need to be looking at to understand if your business is healthy or not? And so once you've input the data that you need, you start seeing how healthy you are and you start seeing what you actually need to do and work on next.
I think it's such a different way of looking at things because it says that even at the earliest stages, you have these frameworks that you should be thinking in that you're going to grow into.
Yes.
And that's what a lot of people miss.
Yeah, absolutely. You need to come learn this stuff. Like, look, I have an MBA. I didn't learn this stuff in my MBA. I've worked in startups and I've worked in corporate. I didn't learn this stuff there. Like, nobody teaches you this stuff. This is the stuff that you learn by making life-altering mistakes. And then you go, dang, I wish I'd known, you know? So that's why I teach this stuff. But I always say to people, like, if you want to run a serious business, this is the stuff I wish I had known.
Yeah.
And it's never too early to actually understand how business works, right? I mean, it's like parenting, right? Where you can like mess up your child for years and then go, I wish I'd known. I wouldn't have done that to you. I wouldn't have forced you to go put on a smile and be nice to everybody if that was actually deregulating your nervous system, disconnecting you from your intuition and disconnecting you from your own sense of safety. I wouldn't have done that to you, right? Well, it's like, okay, well, now we know better. We have a lot of great books. We have a lot of great education. The stuff that our parents did to us, we are hopefully not doing to our kids, right? And that's kind of like what I do for businesses is like, look, I have been there. I have been homeless. I have like started over many times. I have had to do many pivots. Like, don't do as I did. Let me teach you what it takes to grow a really healthy business so that you have one.
And it's such a parenting ish way of looking at business because it basically says, I want you, the next generation, to do better than I did. And I think that's what we all want for our kids. And I love that that is what you want for your clients too. Anything else you want to share?
I think that if you can really like pause and just understand that you're in a specific phase, and if you're willing to look at the phase you're in, I promise you, you will grow faster. If you're willing to be honest about, I'm here. In order to move here, I need to do XYZ.
How can people find you? Where should they go if they want to learn more about what you do?
I'm pretty easy to find. I'm Celi Grows Business everywhere. So I feel like that's easy to remember. CELI Grows Business on social media channels, on Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn. And if you want to check out Scale Pilot and the next time we do a public demo, get scalepilot.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here for a great conversation. And until next time, I'm Danielle Weil. Let's go out there and market like a parent and parent like a marketer.